Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending upon where you are in the world, and welcome to Part 3 of the webinar series, an in-depth look at SAP S/4HANA can do for your business. Today's webinar is entitled How to Develop a Strong Business Case for SAP S/4HANA, hosted by SAP Insider and sponsored by Illumiti. My name is Steve Paul. I'm your moderator today. We have just a few announcements before we begin. This webinar is designed to be interactive between you and our presenter. Later in the program, we'll ask for your feedback. This webinar also contains audience polling, so please complete the polls when they appear, and thanks in advance for your participation. You can also participate in our Q&A session by asking questions about the information presented in this webinar at any time. Just type your question into the text box located at the bottom left of our console and then click the Submit Question button. We'll answer as many questions as time permits after our presentation. Slides will advance automatically throughout the event, and you can download a PDF copy of our presentation by clicking on the Download Slide link in the resource box on the bottom left of our console. And at this time, we recommend you disable your pop-up blockers. And if you're experiencing any technical problems, please visit our webinar help guide by clicking on the Help icon on the bottom right of our console. If slides are not advancing, please press the F5 key on your keyboard to refresh your browser. And now on to our presentation, How to Develop a Strong Business Case for SAP S/4HANA. Discussing today's topic will be Lorraine Howell, Vice President, Research and Development with Illumiti. Over to you, Lorraine.
Hi, thanks, Steve, and thanks for the welcome. Hello to everyone that's on the webinar today. I've just put up a slide that kind of overviews where we are. We are on webinar number 3, so we've already gone through understanding what SAP S/4HANA is. We talked about in the last webinar the differences, how you actually discover the differences between your current SAP ERP landscape and the SAP S/4HANA landscape. And there were a whole bunch of technical reports and things that we suggested you look into and run to help you with that assessment, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we go through today as well. And so on to the third webinar today, which is developing a business case for moving forward. So today is August 10th, and that's what we're going to be addressing. So in our process, the first 2 webinars really looked at what I call the first why, which is, what the heck is S/4HANA all about? Getting that understood as a start is very important as you go through this process. And there's lots of things about S/4HANA you'll probably find that you didn't know, and it's constantly evolving, as you'll find out today. So it's very important to get a grip on what it has to offer right at the beginning. We then went on to talk about the transition assessment. So the what is what I called it. In other words, what is going to change as we move forward into this new world of S/4HANA. And then today we're talking about what I call now the complete why as opposed to the first why. And this is building that proper business case that will back you up as you go forward to all of your business users to make sure that everybody feels the need to go forward and to prepare that business case for them. All right, so in building a business case, I kind of looked at what SAP was saying in terms of what are the benefits of going forward with SAP HANA, and so obviously specifically with SAP S/4HANA. And SAP had put this together some time ago, saying that, clearly there should be some value in terms of the investment that you're going to be putting into the HANA roadmap. So there is going to be a value between 0 to 20% of the overall value that you're going to see coming just from moving into HANA. And you should see a total cost of ownership reduction with landscape changes and all of those kinds of things. But probably more importantly is the actual changes that come with S/4HANA, particularly in the business intelligence area, where you should see that your business users are becoming more productive because now they're getting the knowledge and the data at their fingertips, so they can actually see how the business is operating instead of going through data warehouses and Excel spreadsheets and so on. So that is definitely a 30 to 40% value that you would see in your business. The one thing that's mentioned in this point too is that the opportunity to build applications, so doing application development, is much bigger now with S/4HANA than it was before, just because of the capabilities of HANA. And we can have another discussion on that at another time, but that is something that also needs to be taken into account as you build out your business case. And then finally, probably the biggest value of all will come from the improved business processes that we're going to be outlining today. So this is really where we want to focus our business case, because this is where the real benefit is going to be, specifically actually on the last 2 points. And hopefully we can see that today. But what I'm going to do quickly now for the next slide is to hand over to Steve quickly just to do a quick poll. It's very similar to the polls that we've done before, but we would like to kind of see where the audience is and if anything has changed since our last webinars. So over to you, Steve, for the poll questions.
Okay, thanks very much. We actually have 2 poll questions we would like to ask back to back. So we want to know from our audience, when do you think your company will make the move to SAP S/4HANA? Is it in less than 1 year, 1 to 2 years, 3 to 4 years, or over 4 years? So please give us your feedback, share with your colleagues here. We'll show the results in a few moments. And of course, we are going to take questions at the conclusion of the event. So we want to make sure that you submit your questions and we answer as many as we possibly can. Just a few more moments here. Lorraine, based on our previous events, what have we typically seen from our audience?
Around 1 to 2 years seem to be the majority of people. So looking at it pretty soon was what we've seen before.
All right. Well, let's take a look and see what this audience has to say. Well, pretty close then. Almost 40% say 1 to 2 years.
Okay. Yeah. So it's kind of expected. Some people in the 3 to 4 years. That is kind of where we were, I think, last time as well.
Okay, great. And then let's ask our second poll question here. What do you see as the greatest obstacle to implementing SAP S/4HANA? Is it costs, the fear of being at the bleeding edge, a lack of a business case, executive buy-in, or need to sweat out your current system? So make your selection here. Give us, again, the greatest issue or obstacle, and we'll show that as well. Lorraine, what did you recall from previous events there?
Yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that, so I've been racking my brain a little. I think it was lack of business case, actually. I think that was the one that was probably the most.
Okay, well then let's just see how
this audience thinks.
Yeah.
Costs. I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks very much, Steve. That's pretty revealing, actually, because I think people are concerned about the cost of moving forward, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. We'll talk about this more, actually, in the 4th webinar, because we're going to talk about the different adoption paths, and the different adoption paths are going to essentially affect the cost of moving forward at this point. And then overall cost, of course, will be affected depending on the roadmap that you choose. But that is interesting that is a concern, as well as the need for a business case. All right, so going forward, what we want to cover then today is assessing some of the reports that SAP has provided. And SAP has provided a lot of technical reports, which we kind of addressed and talked about in the previous webinar. But there are also reports and programs that you can run that can help you build your business case in a little bit more detail, where you're actually prioritizing those things that are important to you. And we'll look at the 2 major reports that I could see that SAP has out there that will help you do this. So it's kind of an automatic way of getting to a point where you have a business case. But the second part actually is also a discussion about the points that come out of these reports, there's going to be highlights around what those benefits are, but they might not be that specific to your user base or what you feel is important for your organization, even though it might come from the way you run your business, because these reports are pretty detailed, but it still might not particularly cover what's important to you. So we feel, at least as an organization ourselves, that it's very important to bring in your business users, get them involved in the process, and actually do a innovation workshop or a design thinking workshop with them, where they get to kind of vote on what they feel are really important and real benefits of S4HANA. So that when you go live at the end of the day, they can actually measure against something that they really needed and felt that they wanted. So you categorize everything and then say, are these things really important to us? All right, so that's what I'm hoping to get through today. It's all with the assumption, of course, that some kind of a transition assessment has been run in your organization. Now, obviously, you're attending a webinar that's happening monthly at the moment, and maybe you haven't got to a point of doing the transition assessment, but we will assume that by the time you get to building your business case, that you have gone through that process. And we talked about this last time, right? You would have done a custom code analysis to kind of figure out, how much of your custom code is still being used today, and how is that custom code going to be affected by moving forward. You could do a sizing at this point if you wanted to. You could do a sizing later, but the tools are in place to give you a feel of how your IT landscape's actually going to change as you move forward with S4. There's a readiness report that comes as part of this process that will tell you, looking at all of the transactions that you run today, how you can benefit from going with SAP S4HANA, and specifically the Fiori enhancements that come with that solution. And then looking at simplification, so this was important, and I'm going to stress that again today. Everything that has changed is very well documented, and SAP has a really nice website now for this. They used to share a PDF file. Now there's actually a website that you can go to, a URL that you can go to, that can show you exactly what has been changed within the S4HANA environment from any ERP version. And then finally looking at all the analytics and what's coming out of these reports, and analyzing them and understanding them so that you know what the effect is going to be on your business. And we kind of summarized that in this slide, just saying that you need to understand your business processes, understand what's critical and not critical to your business. You need to be able to consolidate the results of these tools, this readiness check that you've just done, by comparing your business processes that you've deemed critical with things that have changed, to make sure that your business is still going to be able to run when you go live. And then have that all documented so that you know exactly what these impacts are, and that you also are aware of the roadmap, so that if anything is actually standing in your way right now, that you know when that is going to be addressed by SAP. And if you don't know, you at least are aware of where you can go to keep track of what is changing and when it will change. So these are the things that came out of our previous webinar. So today we're going to talk a little bit about evaluating the new business case reports that SAP provides, and there's actually two reports that I specifically highlighted here that I think will be of benefit for you. The one is the SAP Pathfinder report, and you'll see when I go through that actually covers some of the readiness check that we talked about before, but it actually also goes into a lot more detail. It actually measures KPIs in your current environment and then makes suggestions based on those KPIs and where you stand in comparison with your peers as to what you should be focusing on in terms of business benefit. And then SAP's latest addition to the basket is the SAP Transformation Navigator, which is really great in helping you see where you are today and what is recommended to improve your experience within SAP. And it isn't really focused completely on S4HANA only. Both of these reports actually also look at your current environment and what you can improve even today, and then what you can really improve by going through to S4. So neither of these, in my opinion, and I think you will agree when you dig deeper into these, will actually be a waste of time, even if you are thinking of moving to S4 a little later than the majority of people. All right, so the Pathfinder report, there's a nice link at the bottom here that you will find in the DAC when you download the DAC. That will take you to where you can actually get this report free today. There are some things that you have to run in your environment to be able to generate this report, so that's important for you to know. One of the things that we'll talk about later on is the Advanced Early Watch report, but I'll get to that in a minute. But what this report is really going to do, it's going to outline your improvements that are specific to you. So based on your system, these are the things that you can benefit from just using the enhancement packs in SAP and going to S4, of course, as well. There will be recommendations about what SAP solutions you can use, and in some cases where SAP is moving to cloud, it would make recommendations on that as well. For example, for HCM, which is moving into SuccessFactors, SAP would make recommendations around that as well, where it makes sense. And it's a very interactive report, so you can actually click on it and go into the things that matter to you. You don't have to read the whole report if there are areas that aren't of importance to you. You do have to be on SAP Solution Manager 7.1 Support Pack 12 at minimum. And with SAP pushing all of you guys into 7.2 by the end of the year, then of course that will be a great start as well. But you do have to be at minimum on Support Pack 12. So the report includes this Enhanced Early Watch. The Enhanced Early Watch gets activated through Solution Manager on your system, and it gives you really good comprehensive reports on all of the KPIs of your business as the business is running. So this is just an example where it's talking about procurement. It counts, and looks at what purchase orders are overdue, what purchase orders are still open, and gives you the metrics and the KPIs on those values. And it will do this analysis across all your business units that run in that particular SAP environment. And this information that you get from this advanced or enhanced early watch report actually feeds into the Pathfinder report. And the Pathfinder report then gives you an overview of your system, which includes recommended innovations in terms of functional enhancements, in terms of user experience, in terms of moving to cloud, and then also in terms of S4. So it gives you an overview of where you can benefit in all of those cases, and then it takes you into more details about improving your business processes and optimizing your IT landscape. So it's a very, very thorough report giving you this information. I've just done a couple of screenshots of the report to give you some information on what's in there. The next slide just talks about the functional enhancements, which is one of the recommendations that came out of here. And you can see that it recommends it for the enhancement pack that you're currently running on. And when you click into any one of these, it will give you a list of all of the business functions that you could switch on all the way back to Enhancement Pack 0 up to where you are today. So if you're on Enhancement Pack 6, obviously there's stuff in that Enhancement Pack that you can benefit from, but you could go all the way back to other Enhancement Packs where you haven't yet switched on business functions that you could possibly benefit from. So this will make a recommendation based on what you currently are running, the T-codes and transactions that you're doing in your system. And then as far as UX is concerned, it obviously is going to also point out where you can find improvements in terms of your user experience. And yeah, we're looking at Fiori applications specifically that will work even in your ECC environment today and that you could benefit from immediately. And then it will take you through, and you'll see that later on, to the ones that you can benefit in S4. And then this is just a drill down into each one of those, so you can see the name of the app that will be applicable to replace VA01, for example, for checking price and availability in the system. So he has a suggestion of an app that you could go ahead and use right now. And then it will obviously end off with an S4 recommendation, because that's what we're focusing on, and this is a very important part of building your business case. So what are the things that in each of the business areas that we're talking about that SAP is saying, if you actually apply this, your business is going to run more efficiently or better in that area? And these are the things that I would very much like your end users to be involved in looking at. Your business users should be involved in this process so that they can say, SAP's made 10 recommendations in finance, but you know what? When we drill down into that, there's only 2 of those that we really care about, and we want to vote on those. Those are the things we want to see us benefiting from. Because you'll also see that out of those 10 recommendations, you might need to buy the licenses for the embedded BPC, for example, to benefit out of one of those recommendations. And maybe you're not in the place to do that right now. So that's something you should consider as we go through this process. A lot of the new functionality not a lot, but there is quite a bit of the new functionality that comes embedded in S4 that still carries a separate license. And we can talk about that on another occasion as well. But it's something you do have to consider as you go through building your business case. Here's just another example of some of the KPIs. So it really does a thorough analysis of each of the business areas within your current system, and then makes a comparison against the market benchmarks. And these are figures that SAP has in their database so that they can do a legitimate comparison against your peers and make suggestions based on that. It's a great tool actually for building out your business case. Where you see you're the worst, sometimes you don't care if you're the worst because it's not part of your core business, but sometimes you do care when you are the worst in the market because that's an area where if you improve, maybe you could differentiate yourselves. So just something that comes out of that early watch report. And then finally, the recommendations around your business processes, how you can improve your DSOs, how you can improve order fulfillment, and all kinds of other aspects of your business. So this is where you stand. This is the impact on the business. If you drill down into one of these, it will show you the future solution. So if you needed to get your DSOs improved, here's the perfect SAP S4HANA application that you can actually leverage once you go live. Probably with minimum work, just the migration process will activate this, and it will then help you improve your DSOs because you'll get more visibility, etc., to that. So that's what you would see as you go through this process. So it's a very comprehensive report. It's a free report. There's no reason why you shouldn't run it. I think it would be good also to involve your integrator to help you analyze and understand how this report can help you in your process. And then the second report, which is the newest addition to SAP's toolset for helping the conversion and migration process, is the SAP Transformation Navigator. Now, I've been playing around with this a little bit. It is a really great tool in the sense that it does link to your system. So it can actually record from your system what modules you've got activated and so on, and then feed that into this report. Or you can actually enter them manually. So my first attempt when I played with this was to actually just enter a bunch of processes manually for a particular line of business. So I chose a bunch of different items that you can see on the left-hand side, which are all the products that this particular client of ours was running. So they were using HR renewal, they weren't using success factors, and there were a whole bunch of other solutions. It was a manufacturing company that I was looking at. And then immediately what SAP does once you've entered those business processes is to make recommendations. So it's saying that here's a bunch of products, some of them embedded in S4HANA, some of them in the cloud, that SAP is recommending that you could use. And then some of these products are just embedded in S4 and are part of S4 and not licensed, right? Some are licensed and some are not. But SAP is making a recommendation across the whole suite for you to improve your business processes. But once you've done that, okay, it's good looking at this and saying, okay, that's great, but there's a lot of stuff there that I probably can't even think about right now as I go through this transformation. So the next step in this process is to actually do a value analysis. So you get, it actually takes all of your business processes and splits it up into different value areas that you can look at and say, well, these are important to me. right? So I want to reduce my finance costs, so I want to bring my audit costs down, or any one of these particular items, and there are pages of these items that could be important to you. So you can actually click on them and say, yes, this is important, or no, you know what, I'm just going to leave it blank, it's not important to me. And what SAP would then do is, based on what you have defined as important to you, it will then make a recommendation of what products you should be implementing, or what solutions within S4HANA you should be implementing to achieve those benefits. Now, if you look at this particular report, you can actually see here that in the resolution type, some of the stuff is just context specific. And that just means that it's part of S4HANA, possibly it could be part of an extra licensed product, but it's part of the core solution. So that will be highlighted very clearly here. And you can see, for example, SAP saying you should use business objects dashboards instead of your SAP ERP standard reports to improve some of the dashboarding that you're doing in the system, as an example. Some of the solutions would involve a process transformation. Here's an example, for example, where the customer that I had inputted in here was using SCM, or supply chain management, and SAP is saying, well, the way to go to improve your planning and your forecasting is to use SAP Integrated Business Planning. Now, that's a cloud solution that SAP is recommending here to replace the supply chain management solution that you were using, maybe APO or something like that before. So that's a new functionality that SAP is now highlighting in this process. And then a lot of the stuff will just be purely out of conversion. So just by going to S4HANA, you'll see improvements in a lot of the processes. So there's a lot of stuff that you're just going to benefit from moving to S4. And then finally, there is also discontinued content like HANA Live, which was the old way of reporting. If you were running ECC or Suite on HANA, SAP's replaced that with Core Data Services. So that's something that you need to be aware of. And this Transformation Navigator will point all of that out to you. And then finally, you can actually set your priorities in terms of these products that SAP is now recommending, which ones you actually feel should be leveraged in your migration. So am I going to just go with just a pure conversion? Am I just going to use the S4 functionality that's provided out of the box? Or am I going to actually use some of the stuff that's being pulled into core, like BPC, or extended warehouse management, or transportation management? All those things used to be external systems. They're now embedded in S4. Do I want to prioritize them as being something I want to activate in my roadmap? And do I want to prioritize them now, or do I perhaps want to prioritize them later? Maybe those are things that are going to be lower down on my priority because we're not going to focus on them in this first migration exercise. So this report will give you all of those kinds of details. And we're running this hand in hand with SAP and a couple of customers to make sure that this is going to end up being as meaningful as it seems to be from what SAP has advertised so far. But I wanted you guys to be aware of this automation that's available to help you in your process of building your business case. All right, so once you've done these two reports, you can imagine that you have a slew of information, a lot of very, very important and useful information for understanding why S4HANA is so important and why it can benefit your organization. But it is very important for you to now go through that second step of prioritizing those benefits, making sure that you know what is going to actually be important to your end users and to your organization. So at the end of the day, what I feel, and what I actually looked at some Gartner reports on this as well, I felt that there are definitely ways of categorizing all of these benefits. You know, it looks scary when you think of, I'm dealing with a whole list of things that are now going to change and improve with S4HANA, but how do I actually prioritize those things? And you can actually group those into major categories, which I've done on this page. And what I've already done here is I've assumed I've gone through a design thinking process and I've kind of figured out what's important to my business. Your picture, your heat map might look completely different, of course. But in my little experimental world, I felt that anything that improved the user interface was very, very important to my organization. And that was across all the different lines of business. I also felt that real-time analytics was a game changer, because I know how much time my organization spent on Excel spreadsheets and trying to get data out of the system and reacting after the time to analytics. So this was important. I put performance a little lower down, because depending on the size of your organization, maybe it doesn't matter that you run MRP overnight and deal with your material requirements the next day. Or maybe it does matter, and maybe performance is more important, where you need to run real-time MRP and see the results immediately. So in that case, that would probably go higher up in my estimation. And IT benefits, because IT plays such an important role in the whole conversion and migration process. I put that as something important to simplify landscapes, reduce our footprint. I think is important. So we can categorize a lot of the improvements just into, let's get rid of BPC standalone and bring it into the system because it's going to simplify our landscape. That might be something that is a driver. New ways of doing business. This is something I found people struggle a little bit in grasping, because we don't want to change so much. We just want to do the business like we always did it. But there's drastic improvements in S4. We talked about this in the first webinar, that will enable you to do what I call exception-based management, hence the acronym there, EBM, where you can look at KPIs or analytics and then immediately drill down and fix problems based on exceptions. So I can see a problem. If there's no problem, I don't drill down. I don't waste my time. I don't export to Excel and spend days doing reporting on something that I know is okay. This exception-based management, if that's important to your business and it's a driver in building your business case, then that needs to be obviously up there. And then any kind of new S4HANA functionality that's been added into the system that wasn't there before, new capabilities. Sometimes that's a little bit of a lower priority, because we don't even know what they are until we see them. And sometimes it helps to see some demos on the stuff, and then maybe that will improve your need for those things. But quite often we put that lower down, saying we'll address that when the time comes, which is not a bad thing to do at all, unless there's something in there that really will be a game changer to your organization. So just looking at these, a couple of examples of each of these. So the improved user interface, we talked about this before, the fact in finance that you have a universal ledger or a universal journal that enables you to be able to see and analyze your data at any dimension within the system. So you've got all of your information, your materials, your assets, your vendors, your customers, and all your profitability characteristics are all part of one journal. And so reporting, being able to give this information to your end users in a nice user-friendly manner is a lot easier than it ever was before. And of course, the output of that or the front end of that is your Fiori applications, which are task-specific. So if you're a user in your organization, you're doing something that's specific to you. It's not a transaction code that serves 6 different types of people in my organization. It's something that's built specifically for me. And by being task-specific, it becomes what I call Google Easy. So I just look at it and I know how to transact without having to ask anyone, because it's so obvious. And that's where we would like to take our organization. So we need to look at that as we build our business case and find where are the users struggling the most in our environment today, and what are the Fiori applications or the enhancements that come with S4 that will make their lives better, and build that into our business case. The second thing is, of course, real-time analytics. So no more extractions to data warehouses. Everything is in the system that we're transacting in. And so now we can start making real-time forecasts and doing simulations against all of the data in the system without having to wait any time. And I think that that's important. If that is important to you as an organization, that is something you have to build into your business case as well. And then performance, like I said before, if you feel in your organization that everything runs fast enough or is good enough, that's fine. But if there are definitely things in your organization that should be running faster, and you know that with S4HANA, the HANA database, you will get that in-memory computing that will make things faster, then that needs to be part of your business case as well. Elimination of batch jobs, for example, if that's important, needs to be built into your business case. New functionality. So I've been talking, and we're going to talk about this a lot in the fourth webinar, the whole adoption process. A lot of the companies that I've been talking to recently have said, we want to move to S4, but, the biggest benefit for us immediately is finance. So if we can get everything, can we just upgrade finance in this environment? And what about all our other instances? And what SAP has brought to the table here is to say, why not implement a central finance system and then have that completely S4HANA and feed real-time your data from all of the other systems into that system as a starting point. And then once that system is stable and you're happy and your users are delighted, you can build that system up to handle all of your logistics functionality as well. So this functionality is something that SAP has added, the ability to have a central finance system that connects real-time to all of your feeder systems and enables you to manage and look back from the central finance system to your feeder systems is new functionality that you may want to consider as you move forward to S4. Maybe that's a stepping stone, and we'll talk a bit more about this next time. And then cash management, using the functionality in cash management to automate your cash application, for example. Perhaps that's something you want to consider. And we already talked about the business planning and consolidations that's now embedded in the system. So are those things important to my organization? Are they important as part of our roadmap in going forward? And then the IT benefits, of course, I think this can be sold to the CFO because you're going to be showing specific savings in terms of the cost of your infrastructure, the cost of your database size. We do know that HANA in-memory systems are more expensive than regular database systems, so there is that factor that has to be included, but those prices are coming down. Just being able to eliminate things like BW may actually offset that kind of cost quite significantly. So these are the things that the IT department can pull out of these reports that we've run, and in discussion also figure out what the benefits would be in terms of simplifying the landscape. And then new ways of doing business we talked about as well is specifically being able to be more efficient in the way you do your business because you're leveraging exception-based management, for example, and that everything is now real-time within your system. So you're not working in two different systems, you're working in one system, and that's going to change the way you operate. So start looking at those things and saying to your C-level executives, these are the benefits that we're going to realize by doing this even now in the first phase where they are applicable. Now, once you've gone through all of that process, you may still need to go back to the SAP roadmaps. We talked about this last time. So I put this slide in here because this is something that is important, and now we're on the verge of 1709. We're in August now. Next month is September. The next version of S4HANA is coming out. So it is important for you to look at what's coming out of that and add that to your business case, because by the time you go live, 1709 probably will be the version that you go live with, especially today if you're contemplating this in the next year or two. And with that, there are some interesting documents that SAP is sharing out there that you can actually, there is a link to these documents as well that you can go and see what the benefits are. So this is just comparing some of the initial benefits of going with 1511 versus moving to 1610, and then finally with 1709 as it comes out next month. And I bolded a few examples here. For example, in finance, what's integrated in 1709 now is machine learning capability around automation of cash application. So, when your accounts receivable accountant goes in and applies cash to customers, and there's a certain pattern in the way that he or she does that, the system can learn that pattern. And next time, when you run that automation, it can do it automatically and actually clear a lot more than it cleared before, because it's learned from the actions of the system or the actions of the accountant what to do in terms of making those matches. It's almost hard to believe that this is real today. This is not just stuff we talk about. This is coming in 1709 and something that you could leverage. And then other things like the transportation management that used to be a standalone system, that all that functionality is now coming embedded in the S4 solution. More complex manufacturing scenarios. SAP has supported manufacturing. 1610 has got a pretty good comprehensive manufacturing solution already built in, but there's some more advanced demand-driven manufacturing components that SAP is bringing into 1709 that might be relevant to your business. And then everybody's favorite variant configurator, that is something that SAP has spent a lot of time on for improvement and actually being competitive with other vendors out there in terms of providing a solution that's very comprehensive and very user-friendly. And that's now being included in 1709 as well. So if you are doing make-to-order or engineering to order or anything that needs a good variant configurator, it will be very good for you to look at what is being offered in 1709, and you could build that into your business case. Yes, our current VC works pretty well, but look how cool this new one is. So that's something that I just wanted to point out. So each one of these items will mean different things to different people, but I think it's something that you should be considering as you work your way through your business case. And this slide I've just added in so that when you download the slide, you can have a look at some of the details around these things. I have another version of this slide that SAP has provided, where there's actually links from each of these points into more detail on the web if you need to research any of that, and I could share that with you as well. All right, so that's the roadmap, which is something that you must include when you're prioritizing all of the benefits of S4HANA. And we did talk about the simplification list last time, and I just wanted to point this out again. This is something that you need to not forget when you're looking at building out your benefits. There are going to be things that are going away, things that are being added that you will be able to access through this simplification catalog. And this is a new link that SAP has provided that actually will take you into 1610 and all of the lists, all the things that have changed and they have been simplified. And then also very shortly you will see 1709 up there as one of the options as well. So that will give you then a full story to put together into your business case and an overview of all the benefits for S4HANA. And then you'll finally be able to come up with your heat map in those categories. And I also found that some people like to go more details, so they actually have subcategories in each of these areas, and then have even make decisions at that lower level. These are important to us at the lower level, and these are the things we want to build into our business case instead of focusing at this higher level. So you can have a drill down from here into that level as you do your analysis. And like you saw in the previous slides, it's really just a matter of putting a tick mark against the stuff, having votes on what is important and what's not important for you to get to this particular heat map that you can then use to substantiate your business case. All right, so we're getting to the end, and so we'll have some time to do some question answering, which I look forward to. But I did want to just finish off with a few points. So once you've done this prioritizing and you know more or less how to build and document your business case, there are a few things that you have to consider. So the first is you need to factor into that business case getting your SAP system cleaned up, because ultimately when you present this business case to your CFO or to whomever, you need to be able to say that there is some stuff that we need to do in the current environment to prepare us to go forward. And I just highlighted some things here, like getting rid of, custom programs that you're no longer using, or changing custom applications into the new applications that are provided in S4. So making a decision about, we're not even going to worry about trying to bring this custom application over, because we've seen that in S4HANA, that application has now already been built in a much more efficient way than what we had, and so we're going to adopt that instead. So we need to review that and make that decision up front, because that will make the whole process a little easier. And then also review any business processes which should be updated. So we talked about this last time, comparing your processes with best practices. SAP has a good best practice site that I added to the previous presentation, that you can go and look at and see what are the best practices and how are we deviating from those best practices. And maybe as we go to S4, we adopt those best practices, because we can then leverage some of that functionality that comes with S4. Whereas if we just stayed with this custom practice that we were doing, we wouldn't really be able to leverage some of those benefits. So that needs to be included. So based on what the transition assessment that you've gone through, those things that you need to consider as part of your business case. And then secondly, look at all of the business process improvements we've just gone through. And if possible, ascribe a real value, a real return on investment for each of those improvements that you're doing. So what is the cost of moving forward? Well, I've got to convert to S4HANA, but we know that conversion has to happen anyway. But maybe we also, while we're doing that conversion, we're going to activate the embedded planning functionalities or the embedded consolidation functionalities. Now, that's not free. So there's a cost involved in the license, but there's also a cost involved in the activation, in the implementation of that piece of functionality. So let's make sure that we've got this beautiful wish list from the business users of what they want, and this is the best business case you could ever have. But please also make sure that you have assigned a cost of doing that. And then the second thing is probably the most important thing on this point, and that is making sure that you have the buy-in of your team. And when I'm talking about the team, I'm talking about the wider business team. So your business users, your IT users, your business analysts supporting your business users, all of them need to be brought into this process so that they all want what S4HANA is offering. And hence you can build that business case so much easier. And at the end of the day, you can measure the outcome. If you have their desires documented up front, at the end of the day, when you go live, you can measure whether you've achieved those outcomes. Now, you're not necessarily going to achieve them all in your initial go live, but you can have them documented and say it's still coming in the next phase of this process. But I think you need to be aware of those and have them there. And then, are the benefits measurable, and are the improvements demonstratable, is something that you want to be able to think about as you're going through this process. I think it is important actually to get some demos on the new improvements so that the end users can actually see that as they're going through this process and be content that, yes, this is going to help us. And at the end of the day, they need to be able to demonstrate it back, of course, to once they've gone live, to their managers to show that they actually have achieved those improvements. So something you also have to take into account and build into your business case as you're preparing it. And then finally, and this is not something we're going to talk about now, is choosing your adoption strategy. That we will address in the next webinar. So depending on where you are, like if everything is important in S4HANA, everything is green, everything is more important than anything else, then you can't go through a slow implementation process. You need to get there as soon as possible. But if you notice that everything is, things are okay today, and yeah, there's some improvement coming, but we don't have to have this tomorrow, then you can adopt in a much slower manner. So that's stuff we will talk about next time. And then here I was just talking about specifically, are you going to do a complete new implementation? Are you going to convert your current implementation to S4 directly, or are you actually going to do a landscape transformation, which could involve going to Suite on HANA first, or it could involve in setting up a central finance system that you then use to get your finance people happy, and then you bring the rest of your organization into that. But we'll talk about that in webinar number 4. Okay, so where we've got to at the end of this webinar today is in the first webinar, we've understood S4HANA. In the second webinar, we've understood what is going to change within our environment. And in this webinar, we hopefully have a plan for how we're going to determine what are the business process improvements that are going to be relevant to my organization. So I'm not saying that while I was doing this webinar in the hour that we've had together, or the 49 minutes we've had together, that you've been able to figure out all of those processes right now. This is a process you have to go through. You need to set up those workshops, you need to sit down with your end users, and you need to build out that business case. And it doesn't have to be a 10-day exercise. It can be a couple of days exercise, but it is something that you would need to do if you need to have that business case to move forward. And then next time, we will talk about the how. What is the strategy? How are you going to go forward? In each of your cases, I know it's going to be a different strategy, but how do you decide on what that strategy is going to be? So I left you with a couple of resources again. This is in the second PowerPoint as well. But these are very interesting links that you could go in and teach yourself some stuff on S4HANA. And then I will end by just saying that we've dealt with webinar number 1, webinar number 2, and webinar number 3. Hopefully getting you excited about S4 at this point. Very keen to get that business case put together. And we will talk about creating your roadmap in the next one. So over to you, Steve. I think I am done for today, other than answering questions.
Okay, very good. Excellent presentation. Thank you very much. While you see the series of events in your screen here, I'm going to push out to our audience a link to register for any or all of the events in the series. So either on demand or coming up next month. Please check it out, and hope to see you then. Also want to push out to our audience a URL. It's a link to a feedback survey, and we greatly appreciate it if you could fill out this form. Your participation in our survey allows us to serve you better in the future. And now on to the question and answer portion of our event. As a reminder, to participate in the Q&A, just type your question into the text box located at the bottom left of the console, and then click the Submit Question button. And as Lorraine said, we have a number of good questions. So let's start the first one here from Monmouth, who asks, is there a way to run Pathfinder directly on the service marketplace? Like we can run the HANA readiness directly on SAP OSS?
Right, so that's a good question. The Pathfinder report, from what I've understood, has to run through Solman on your ECC environment. So I don't think that it's something that you can run. I was very excited about the readiness check because it allowed you to choose either running it on ECC or on via Solution Manager. But the Pathfinder report with this enhanced early watch, as far as I've known, and I've done a little bit of research on it, it has to run through Solution Manager.
Okay, thanks. Some people were asking when will the fourth webinar be held, and that's September 26th. So again, register and hope to see you there. Let's see now. Another question from Bill. Bill says, I understand that we have to focus on value first as we build our business case, but in reality, though, would all of these benefits be realized immediately after one goes live with SAP S/4HANA?
So yeah, that is also a good question, and I kind of alluded to that a little bit as I was going through the process today. I don't think it's realistic to expect that you're going to benefit from everything when you go live immediately. I think most of our clients that we've spoken to and done migrations with have done it in a phased approach. So get the technical upgrade done, and then start leveraging some of those benefits, the business process changes in phases afterwards. And you'll have to figure that out, because as you build your business case, you could figure out, that this line of business or this area of our organization would really benefit. And in fact, if we don't give them something out of the box when we go live, they're going to be very disappointed in the whole process. So there are some beautiful KPIs and Fiori applications that you can actually leverage immediately, and you should take advantage of that. But overall, there's so many improvements that you can see over time. I would build that out into a roadmap and say, we're going to deliver this in phases.
Great, thank you. Godfrey wants to know or mentions custom code analysis and other assessment tools. Can they be executed in ECC 6.0 environment prior to starting up S4HANA?
Absolutely, yes. The answer is yes. In my previous webinar, I actually noted 2 OSS notes out there that will tell you how to do that. So there is some some code that you have to upload into your environment to be able to run the analysis. But yes, you can actually do those in your current environment. Even the Pathfinder report you can do. All of these analyses can be done before you actually move forward.
Great. Thank you. Vel says, hi, is SAP Pathfinder / Transformation Manager report the same as a SAP Maintenance Planner report?
No, they are different. These are more business-oriented, so they are specifically looking at business process improvements, whereas the Maintenance Planner is more of a technical tool for moving forward.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Unfortunately, wait a minute. Let's see if we can squeeze in from Ajit here. Do we need to go to Enhancement Pack K8 before we consider S4HANA?
No, absolutely not. You do not have to do an upgrade. What can happen as you do your conversion to S4HANA, SAP, the process will take you through an upgrade and move you into S4HANA automatically. So you don't have to do a step to Enhancement Pack 8 first. You can basically start on ECC 6, as long as you're in Unicode, on any Enhancement Pack and move directly to S4.
Okay, thanks very much. And again, a reminder, if you want to see webinars 1 and 2, there's a link on the audience console, and we pushed out a link a short while ago, so please register there, and hope to again see you for event number 4. Unfortunately, that is all the time we're going to have for today's session, so if we didn't get to your question during the live broadcast, someone will follow up with you over the next few business days. And again, for more information, there were some resources in the link and contact information, and we want to thank you all for attending today's webinar, How to Develop a Strong Business Case for SAP S/4HANA, hosted by SAP Insider and sponsored by Illumiti. Shortly after this live event, we'll send you an email reminder so you can access this presentation on demand. And on behalf of our guest, Lorraine Howell, Vice President, Research and Development with Illumiti, we want to thank you for your time and have a great day.